This is the last day of May 2023, and we're out here at the west gate of Edwards Air Force Base getting ready to take a tour put on by Rex Moen. Now, Rex has a history of service here in the Antelope Valley. He was very active a few years ago in
okay, make sure you guys be ready to go.
When Pete Knight was in politics, Rex handled his field representation. But all of these planes out here at Edwards are original copies. Are the planes that actually set the records. So many that happened out here. And here is the hangar, the new hangar that's being put up. And the tour is to raise money to finish this off. Take about $1 million and to put together by donations of $1,000 each.
Your company sponsored this aircraft, or your organization, like the Rotary clubs, said they want to sponsor an aircraft. Well, they'll have a plaque here, puts out at the airplane that they want to sponsor. There'll be a large plaque saying this aircraft sponsored by the Rotary clubs in California. Plus they'll have one for their home. So there'll be multiple, they'll have their name here as a life friend and have a plaque. So we have different levels of sponsorship, but they're all friends. Anybody that contributes any kind of help to build a museum. Now, our foundation built this facility. Jimmy, we built this 20 years, about 20 years ago, around 2000.
The building was completed and I was retired in this.
This engine right here came out of an XP70. This engine has been more than Mach 3. This engine right here came out of a Blackbird. It's been more than Mach 3. This is a Pratt Whitney J58. This is General Electric YJ93. Mach 3 motors. So I keep telling George that the XP59 never go. The lack of performance that was hoped for because the state of art didn't give the press that they wished.
All right, we'll stand
So
by.
they give the airplane a call.
Control box. We have issues here at the museum because the sun will rot the canopies and rot the tires. Now, we were lucky on tires. We managed to find tires around the country, and in this case, we actually found some original P80 tires. Canopies are another story. So we're learning how to make canopies. It's going to be part of our job description. But this airplane's been restored in 1946. This is the actual airplane that flew coast to coast non-stop for the very first time. It flew 4 hours and 15 minutes from Long Beach to LaGuardia. There were 3 airplanes in the trio. They all had that shooting star on the nose. And the second one was 15 minutes behind. The third guy, knowing he was going to be third, suddenly has mechanical issues. He sets down in Cleveland. Calls the Air Force, says, my airplane broke. Now, this is a stunt that modern Air Force pilots still pull. And the Air Force goes there to fix his airplane, and he disappears in the town. And a week later, the Air Force calls him and says, hey, your plane's fine, couldn't find anything wrong, it's fueled up, ready to go. So he jumps in, takes off, heads back to base. We find out a couple of months later, guess who had a girlfriend in Cleveland? And so anyway, this is a very famous airplane. Also, it's set, it won the jet category in the Cleveland Air Races in '46. And it was also used by the U.S. Post Office to be the very first jet airplane in history to carry the airmail. Now, most of you too young to remember, Jimmy's not, but once upon a time, you had to buy the extra stamp that said airmail. You paid like 1 or 2 cents more. But it was a real touch of class to send your letter by airmail to Grandma. Because she'd look, ooh, went by airplane.
The maintenance record so he could spend the time with his girlfriend, right?
Hey, I don't know nothing.
Is there any truth to that?
Was the pilot Italian? This airplane over here is call sign is Scorpion 4. It is the 4th prototype of the F-117 series. Now, this airplane here, as I mentioned earlier, is the subject of a congressional inquiry. We had the airplane out at Blackburn Air Park in Palmdale, and we had to get it restored. The weather out there was just destroying the aircraft. Bear in mind, the outer skin of the airplane is all fake. Okay, this is not original on the outside. When you touch here, you can hear the fake sheet metal. But inside, that's the real deal. But that's what we had to do. We had to remove the outer skin, you had to remove the angles, change the angles, you had to remove the outer coating, and so on. So this aircraft was just getting beat up out there. We decided to bring it back. We looked at just assembling the aircraft, the cost of trailers, cranes, strong backs, etc. Was going to cost a fortune. And there was no way we can afford it, the Air Force could afford it. So late one night, we simply took the fence down at Plant 42. We hooked up a tow bar to a tractor, got it on the side road, put the fence back up. 10 o'clock at night, we set out with escort of Highway Patrol, and 8 hours and 36 miles later, we brought it back to Edwards. So we went in through an old road that dated back to World War II. So, by the way, you can get the $200 actual authentic heat-up tube covers, or you can go to the pet store and for $3 buy a pack of 5 tennis balls, and it's perfect, and they work. Sir.
So our next destination has no...
When we got this airplane 20 years ago, you weren't allowed to have anything on the aircraft. Nothing. So we had a shell of an airplane. Since then, we've got the cockpit, ejection seat, the original glass canopy, weapons bay, the trapeze devices to launch the weapons, etc., etc. That's where we're putting back in the aircraft. We have a source for this stuff who shall remain nameless, but he's based here for 1 more year, and then we've got to find someone else. So NASA fixed it, broke it in half again. They were going to scrap it. We held our hand up and says, hey, we'll take it. So my volunteers were able to piece it back together again. It's a great asset to have. It looks really cool from a distance. If you sit back up on 100 feet and squint, it looks really awesome. And we use this for classes at school. We use it for special events, test pilot school. They use it as a backdrop and have their class photos in front of it. So it looks pretty awesome. Now, this thing was originally built to be used on Ball's 8, which we passed at the North Gate. The original attachments for that aircraft are actually on this mock-up. We could hang this thing from the aircraft if we wanted to. And that's the eventual plan. We'll get her cleaned up real nice, seal it up, and actually mount it under the right wing of the B-52 at the North Gate. That'll look awesome. We still have to do some work. We have to take the plug out of the wing, and we have to move the concrete that's in front of it because it blocks the airplane. But eventually it'll make a great exhibit. This F-16, it's a 2-seater. It's number 1. This is the first one they ever built. So it's a pre-production F-16. Because it's a mock-up or test vehicle, the canopy, they didn't have enough spares. The current canopies don't fit this airplane. Production canopies don't fit pre-production test aircraft. And so because of that, we have no more canopies left. So once again, just like the P-80 Shooting Star, just like the nose of the B-47, we're learning how to fabricate this stuff. As I mentioned, that one out there, I believe, was $18,000 bucks. I can't even imagine what this is going to cost us. But the only way to display it with a clear canopy will be to fabricate these things. The airplane
The P-80 was one of how many? First?
That's actually airframe number 1, 2, 3. And they built 5,000, 6,000, something like that. But the first couple hundred were test vehicles. And this was the primary test vehicle for the Air Force. This one ended up going to Wright Field and being tested. So I've got a 150-foot wingspan. And wings are actually stored up here over the shelf units. It's powered by two 4-cylinder engines out of Ford Focus, European Focus. And it was powered, the fuel was the liquid hydrogen. So this aircraft could fly to 60,000 feet and loiter for 4 days. It was an unmanned aircraft. It was a surveillance drone. Now the cool thing is that since then, this is 20 years ago, this thing actually flew here at Edwards. Since then, we test other vehicles. And this hangar was used by a project, you can look it up on the internet, it's called Vanilla Project. And what they did is they tested a much smaller vehicle that actually fit on the back of an F-250 pickup truck. And no, it's not radioactive, but I get a lot of questions on that. But we actually found the crew. We know who flew the B-52, we know who flew the chase plane.
Guess what?
We know everybody involved. And those guys are actually giving us their personal collections of material. All those are still alive. We get all their documentation and everything for the new archives we're building. But it was so cool to actually meet the crew that flew this one into the explosion. Think about that. No, they actually are here on a quick tour, and you guys could have got here 5 minutes ago. I mean, you got lights and a siren.
I lost your card last time you gave me.
Facsimile.
What about this?
That's one of Burt Rutan's beautiful designs. What is it, very easy? Is that a very easy?
I think it's the original one.
You know how many different designs Rutan has that almost the same thing? So you know the story about the 4 Raptors? The 4 Raptors hanging on the wing of the 135 Mid-Pacific. The 4 Raptors, probably 1990 something, has got glue lambs in them.
Were these the first glue lambs used for this type of work?
I don't have any idea. I don't know
know.
I don't know the history of glue lambs, but I'm intrigued